is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy, D Dyson. Don't mind the scar, playing with kids. Stranger Things, Season 4, Part 2, Volume 2, and nothing short of greatness. I sit there and tell myself, with the last two episodes of Episode 8 and Episode 9, how much of screen time it was. It was all together collectively of 4 hours, I believe. So that would have been an extra 4 episodes to part 1. I think part 1 was, I want to say 6 or 7. So they would have went into that episode 10, episode 11. And I know that extra episode needed to be told. You know what I'm saying? So coming down to episode 8 with Papa, and spoiler review, as we all know, how Papa dies. You know what I'm saying? How 11 really gets her powers back, and it explores all those dynamics and everything they had to do to get them back. On the flip side, you have Hopper, you have Joyce, and you have Murray and the Russians trying to get out of the prison, and they finally kind of get out, but they figured the only way to get word out to say that we're here so we can get rescued is go back into the prison. So as they snuck out, they had to get back into the prison. And like I said, that was cinema greatest. You know, I'm telling myself, for everything, all the effects of the emotional toll of Joyce and Hopper. Like, I really thought we lost you. We had a whole funeral. And, you know, as anybody who would, you know, die or something like that will always say who showed up. And I was like, yeah, that's really good writing to be like, did anyone come? He's like, are you kidding? Like, you're the hero of Hawkins. Hell yeah, everyone came. And I think we got to see that. And I was telling myself it was just really distraught and finally seeing them, you know, together. And I really thought Murray or Joyce was going to die. I'm telling myself to save Hopper, because Hopper was always saying, whoever comes from me or whoever's in my life ends up dying. So I kept telling myself, I'm like, Joyce went all this way. I was thinking Joyce was going to eventually die, which would have triggered Jonathan and Will to go off the rails, especially Will. But I sit there and tell myself I love that part, and I loved how, you know, it picks up with the guys out in the desert trying to find where Elle is. And you had the doctor and Papa disagreement. You know, Papa finally goes to extreme lengths to keep Elle there, just because he knows Vecna. He knows Elle's like, you're not ready to defeat him. You're not ready. And she's like, she's kind of in that, you know, that black dark. And I'm telling myself, we're getting back to the essence of Stranger Things with season 1, when she's just in the all black and only can see other people, but they can't see her. So she's seeing the plan that was set forth by Steve, Robin, and Nancy, Max, Lucas, and Lucas's little sister, and how they're going to separate to try to knock off Vecna. And she just kept saying that plan's not going to work. And I love that arc, because you had to really see between Max and Lucas, their journey, and how, you know, with Lucas, especially Lucas's arc, because Lucas, to me, was like Steve. When we met Steve, Steve was an asshole. Steve was, you know, that typical high school douchebag. He was rich. He was just chilling, you know, and he wanted Nancy. He was with Nancy and didn't really care about anything until all this had happened. And it changed Steve. Like, Steve hung with Dustin, was always cool around Dustin. And because it changed from that high school douchebag, because he knew inner him wasn't like that, but he always had to portray to be cool. So, you know, to give off that essence that, hey, I'm cool. But even with Lucas, Lucas goes from, instead of from douchebag to nerd, so to speak, it was from nerd to being a douchebag hanging with the basketball players. Now, this basketball dude, still hell-bent. I still don't know how in the hell you're 18 years old, 17 years old, and you can buy guns, just, you know, 357 Magnum, and Nancy over here buying a shotgun, and then she sawed it off, and I'm like, how are you guys? I'm like, I know this is the 80s, but I don't think the 80s was wild like that when any high school kid could just buy guns. But we also look into Columbine. I feel like Columbine was like the first mass school shooting, and that was like, what, 92 type of thing? So I'm pretty sure, yeah, you probably could be in high school and buy guns in the 80s. So even with that arc with Lucas and the basketball players finally catch up to, all of them, and then he finally confronts Lucas, and he's thinking that it's you the whole time, that I was sitting there telling myself, I'm like, that's crazy in itself. I love the lighting effects of the whole thing. How the light, with the blue lights where they're in the house, and then it goes to red with Vecna and his like little mirror dimension with the doors and everything. So I love the lighting in that, and even just them communicating, for Lucas's younger sister to communicate with just writing on the pad without having to say anything. I was like, dang, you are smart. She is a smart little cookie. And I was like, how they all had to just write on pads, and you seeing Lucas and Max just going back and forth, like, hey, movies, do you want to go? Like, he misses her. And I remember when she was talking about her emotions and her happy moments, and Lucas is like, am I in one of those? And she like, possibly. And then she kind of thinks back of, when they're in the dance, and she was with Lucas and their first kiss, and actually just being around each other. Like, yeah, Lucas is a lot in her happier moments, because her final times with Billy dying was so traumatic for her, but she still kind of had Lucas as a love interest. But when Billy died, you could tell they kind of just separated, and she just went off on her own. And that's when that propelled him to just try to be popular, try to be cool, and start playing basketball and stop really hanging around them like that. So you can tell it was just an emotional toll. Now, like I said, I love Lucas's arc, and anytime somebody points a 357 Magnum at me and he just kind of like dives and starts fighting the dude, the bully, the basketball player, and I was kind of like, man, that's crazy. That was crazy. But I loved his arc, because even when Max was kind of getting broke up, he was just kind of like, please, no, like, no. And still with her. He was still with her. And I think I wasn't expecting Eddie to die. I was expecting Steve to die. And Eddie, it wasn't emotional as I thought it would be, because we just met Eddie and, last month. So, it was just kind of like one of those scenarios where it's just that one season, make them fall in love with this character, and then they kill him off. Same thing with Bob. I remember with Joyce, with Sean Austin's character Bob, fell in love with Bob. Bob was an actual good dude. Now, I thought Bob was part of the Upside Down, but Bob was just an actual good dude until he gets killed by the Demogorgons in that same season. And I was kind of like, same thing with Eddie. Eddie had that, that cool flair about him, that rebel, and I kept telling myself, there's no other thing you can do with Eddie other than to kill him off, because you got to understand, Eddie is wanted for murder. So, and probably grand theft after stealing the camper. So, after he said I ended up turning out like my old man, that's how I knew. I was like, okay, well, Eddie doesn't really have a lot of story arc, because once he gets caught, he's going to jail, like, for killing that girl. So that's why I'm sitting there telling myself, and they were going to blame all of it on him. So why not, and I felt bad for Dustin, because Dustin's, basic, like, older figure for him, male figure, was from Steve, and now to Eddie. I was thinking Steve was going to die, because Dustin doesn't have that story arc figure for him anymore like Eddie does. Eddie is the new Steve for Dustin. So, but I loved and understood when he turned back, and Eddie, first off, when Eddie was shredding in the Upside Down, I'm going to react to that because I loved it. But when Eddie was shredding, he was in Upside Down, and then he was looking at Dustin like, hey, we're not heroes, like, hey, go ahead. But, trying to tell himself that, and trying to, hey, I'm not one of those type of people. But, deep down he really is, what I'm saying? He's really a good guy, which we all know. And just for Dustin to come back in Upside Down, to actually be the last person to see him die, and it was just him. So in Eddie's mind, as it went through the flashback, like, I didn't run because the first thing I saw when I saw death, I ran, and he just was telling himself, I didn't run this time. I didn't run this time, because there was something in him that he said, ever since then, this all started. So I'm trying to rebuke, get that back just to say that I didn't run. You know what I'm saying? So I really told myself, I'm like, Eddie had a really cool story arc, and I really loved him shredding in the Upside Down. Even in the beginning, he was like, this is music. He had Madonna. He had all kinds of stuff in there. I was like, Eddie's cool. Eddie's cool. And to see him die, I was kind of like, man, it sucks, because he was a really cool character. A lot of people had a lot of emotional attachment behind Eddie. I didn't, because he just got introduced in one season. Now, if he was here since like season 3, then yeah, I'd have been like, no, not Eddie. But Steve has been there. I'm gonna be more emotional with Steve dying because Steve's story arc spanned over a couple of seasons, and I'm just happy that they all got it out, alive. And even to wrap this up, when Hopper finally had came back, I was kind of like, man, that was such a feel-good moment. That Hopper came back and he finally got to see Elle, and just how he always opens the door like, hey, kid, just to see them two, because they both had that second chance where he lost his daughter, and how Elle had to grow up without her father and calling the doctor Papa. So it's basically, this is their second chance at basically having a family, so I know that rekindle for them was really, 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 really cool. I loved Argyle's scenes, I'm sorry to jump, but I love Argyle even when he was at the pizza and they put Elle into the freezer and type of thing, and had to go through the dark Upside Down to really defeat, or go through to play mind, to go through the mind to find Vecna, was something I was like, whoa, she's strong, but she's not stronger than Vecna, yeah, but she's just now getting her powers back. And Vecna really had that, you're still strong, but I've been waiting for you. I want to be as strong as you. So yeah. And I was telling myself, okay, yeah, season 5, they're definitely going to be fighting it out. So I'm telling myself, is Vecna the mind flinger the whole time? I'm thinking so. That big old thing in the sky. So I'll sit there and tell myself, wrapping all that up, I don't really see a use for Argyle a lot in next season, but I really hope he does stay into next season, because he was always like, oh my God, man, is that blood, man? Like, I just love that California hippie vibe that he always brings. And even towards the end with Jonathan and Nancy, they had that tension, like, hey, did you apply for college? He's like, no, I didn't, that type of thing. I don't really see them being together, or I see Jonathan next season trying to sacrifice himself for Nancy. I really feel like Steve or Jonathan is going to sacrifice themselves for Nancy, and Nancy's going to be so distraught after that. But it's going to be either or. And how Robin may play an effect where Robin may even fall for Nancy too, or Nancy may fall for Robin, because when she got sucked up by the little string things of Vecna, she didn't scream for Steve. She screamed for she like, Nancy, and she just grabbed, like, so I'm telling myself, Nancy may, but Steve also may with Robin. I don't know who's going to really end up with Robin, or Robin is just going to stay neutral to herself and just try to be with that band member. But I was sitting there telling myself, I'm like, that's going to be an arc in itself with them. And just seeing where it's going to go, because now it's cat's out the bag. They lost for the first time in the first season of Stranger Things. Elle didn't really win because Max is sitting in a coma, broken in half. So that's why I'm telling myself, she felt so distraught after the whole thing, like, this shouldn't have ended like this, but it did. So that's why I'm sitting there telling myself, yeah, it's a lot to unpack when it comes to next season. We're going to see where we're going to go, and I'm here for it. I loved every bit of it. Like I said, this was a good 2 or 3 hours. I finished it. Me and my wife finished it like, a day and a half type of thing. We were just, in it, focused, saw it, was done. So I loved it. I feel like next season is going to up the antes. I want the same budget, and I would like it to be broke up in parts as well. I'm here for it. So, you guys enjoyed my review of Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2, Part 2. Subscribe to my channel. Post, comment down below, and like the video. It's your boy, D. Dyson. Peace.